This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Doing good, Big O. How are you?
I am doing good. Cannot complain. I mean, the Heat did their job. They got the boys eliminated. Did you see Mad Dog Russo?
I did see that. Yes,
You know,
I did.
it and I worked on that channel, and I like Mad Dog. He's a good dude. I think we all get to the point where we're a little too old in our points of view, and we don't adjust with the times, and that's kind of the way he sounded. And I was ready to jump through the screen because the part that Stephen A. didn't tell him is, do you remember that Larry Bird was lying on the floor every time he couldn't sit on a bench? Is that what you want with Jimmy Butler?
Right.
You want him lying on the floor because his back is all effed up? And well, the part that, us older people, we have to adjust with the times is there's a reason why Earl Campbell needs a hip replacement. And that's because you ran him 400 times a year on carpet. And there's a reason why Larry Bird, and there's a reason why, what's it called? Bill Walton has fused ankles and shit like that, because they did things that nowadays you don't need to do because we understand medicine now. And part of it is kind of taking care of these guys' bodies so you can have them long term. Plus, when here's the part that pissed me off also, and I can tell you don't watch the team because Jimmy Butler has been the most selfless player I have seen pretty much in a Heat uniform outside of Wade and Bosch. Okay, Wade and Bosch are the most selfless players in the world because of the sacrifices they've proven that they made. But since Jimmy got here, and here's where I was dead wrong, Anthony, and this is a long ass question, but here's where I was dead wrong. I thought he was going to come here to be the man, give me the ball, score 30 a night. You see, I'm the guy. No, he came here to be the guy that's the leader, the man amongst men, the guy that is trying to get everybody else involved. And then if everybody else is not involved, okay, I'll take over, that kind of stuff. And to insinuate anything that's selfish or not right or whatever, it just shows on all levels either you're out of touch with what's going on in the game, and you're certainly out of touch with the player and what's gone on this team.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I guess first of all, things evolve. Just because things were done one way 20, 30 years ago doesn't mean they should be done that way now. Like you said, we know more about the science behind player health, behind the game. More knowledge is good, right? Like that's why things change. Second of all, I think it's kind of a shame that is the conversation after that game, right? Like that's what we're going to talk about after that game, that Jimmy Butler didn't play and should he have played. I mean, they won without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry. Like, the conversation should be about the Heat's depth, right? Like the conversation should be about how the Heat overcame their absences, the Heat's defense without Jimmy and Kyle, what they did to Trae Young. That should be what the conversation's about, not after, when the Heat eliminate the Hawks 4-1.
I agree.
Should Jimmy Butler have played? I don't know. I mean, I just think, that probably shouldn't have been what was. I'm not going to tell anyone to talk about, but it was kind of surprising that that's where the conversation led to.
Yeah, I just, it's, to me, sometimes it happens. And listen, I have my moments where I'm the old man on the lawn too, dude. I'm 55, right? So there are things that maybe I fail to adjust to at times, and maybe I'm guilty of that also. But we do have to look in the mirror at times and notice, hey, things have changed, and maybe you shouldn't look at it this way. You should look at it the other way. The thing that I thought is you just don't know the sacrifices he's made for this team, and so it's like, that's not the guy. That's just not the guy you want to pick on. Okay, the incident on the sideline between him and UD and the coach. Okay, well, that's something that we can be critical about. You know what I mean? It's just one of those deals. But I just thought it was. I found it humorous and out of touch, actually. overall.
And Big O, I mean, honestly, and like big picture, if Jimmy's knee is kind of bothering him, you're up 3-1 at home. You just beat them without Kyle Lowry. Don't you think you take a cautious approach and you make sure that everything's okay as far instead of pushing him in that situation where you have bigger goals in mind? You might need to play Philly or Toronto next, Boston or Milwaukee. We have the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, things are only going to get tougher. So I understand, even if it wasn't, let's say Jimmy wanted to play, right? The Heat, I understand the Heat being like, no, we're going to be careful here because we have bigger goals in mind.
Right. Yeah. No, I have no problem with what went on in the end. Listen, you're a better team than Atlanta, anyways. If you're both fully healthy, you're deeper than Atlanta, anyways, and you're a better coaching staff than Atlanta, and you have a way better defensive disposition also than
Sure.
Atlanta. So I wasn't that concerned. I understood what they're trying to do. And hey, listen, I'm more pissed off about the one game that you did give away, actually, because that maybe then you wouldn't have had to go through the thing of resting him and risking it. So I would have rather you sweep these guys. But hey, listen, now we can sit back and watch. Hopefully, Philadelphia and Toronto beat themselves up starting tonight, man. Right? I mean, that's kind of what you hope for.
Yeah, that could be a 7-game series. We'll find out tonight. I mean, Philly could end it, but wouldn't be surprising at this point. Toronto at home with all the momentum. If Toronto forced a Game 7, and in a Game 7, anything could happen. I know no NBA team has blown a 3-0 lead, but at this point, you can't rule it out with that series.
Remember, James Harden is on that team.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that while we talk about all these other, I see Doc Rivers trying to defend, his record because everybody's talking about how he chokes away leads and all that stuff. And by the way, if you listen to his explanation, can you really argue with any of it? It all made sense.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
2 of the 3, there was a legitimate reason, and especially the first one when he says, we were an 8 seed. What are you guys talking about, bro?
Yeah. Right. It's like, the fact that we even had a 3-1 lead is an accomplishment. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So
you just never hear coaches talk. Like, I think that was the most surprising thing for people is you never hear coaches really talk about that or go, even though he was even though he was correct.
Never, ever.
Right.
Spo would have left you guys talking shit, whatever, the entire time. He would have let it go. Maybe he takes backhanded shots as time goes on. You know what I mean? Where he has a little subtle shot at some of you guys that might have done that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Spo would have never done. But that tells you how much it's built up in him, because we've been talking about Doc Rivers choking leads now for the last couple of years. And so that's obviously kind of gnawing at him. You know what I'm saying? And let me tell you, that's what I was kind of leading at is Harden, buddy. I have the spotlight on you, not on Doc Rivers, okay? Because somehow or another, you're the guy that's part of all the other equations that I've seen your teams fall short in all kinds of ways. Okay, so you made another excuse to get out of the Nets. Now, what's your excuse here? With Philadelphia. And so it's just one of those things where, to me, that's the guy that I'm kind of having a critical eye on in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all eyes on him in this game, right? I mean, he's not played well in the playoffs. He really hasn't played that well since he got to Philadelphia. He has not looked like the James Harden of old. Joel Embiid is clearly bothered by the thumb. I mean, he's playing well, but he's clearly bothered by it. They need a big game from James Harden. They really
do. They need a big game from Maxey.
And but Maxey has cooled off. I mean, he started off the series looking like Steph Curry. We knew that wasn't sustainable. He's cooled off. They need James Harden to be James Harden, especially without Thibault not eligible to play in Toronto because he's their best defender, right? And so their defense takes a hit. They need to score points tonight. And Toronto obviously has a very good defense. Nick Nurse is, closest comparable to Spoelstra when it comes to coming up with a defensive game plan to shut down an opponent's best player. And he's been able to do that with Philly as the series has gone on. But James Harden needs to step up tonight. He really does. And, I think if Philly wins, it'll be because of him.
Yeah, I mean, boy, dude, that's some crazy stuff there. health wise, how is Jimmy? Is this something, the whole week off? Does it look like Jimmy? What I mean, dude, I know that you cover, like, I don't know, it's the CIA or something, pretty much. I
Kind of,
understand
yeah,
that.
pretty much, yeah,
I was on that beat for 8 years, so
yeah.
dude, I know how impossible it is to break the force field of the Heat. But what it's the truth. We still don't know what Green was high on in that lobby. That think about that. To this day, no one knows what that guy was high on in that hotel lobby. It never got out.
Yeah, right.
Think about that.
Sure.
Okay? It's amazing.
It is.
Anyway, so what's your gut tell you? I'm sure we'll see Butler. But Lowry, does it look like this is something that this almost he's going to have over a week, actually, right?
Mhm.
He's going to have about
Yeah.
10 days, right?
9, 10 days, yeah. 10
Yeah.
days pretty much.
So what's your gut tell you on that?
Yeah. First, regarding Jimmy, I'm like you said, I think he's more of a sure bet that he'll be ready for the first game of the series. Obviously, anything can happen between now and then in a practice, but I don't think the knee issue that kept him out of game 5 is going to keep him out of game 1 of the second round. From what I understand, if there was a game 6 in Atlanta today, he would have been able to play in that game.
Of course.
So, it's one of those things where you have to treat it and you have to be careful with it. It might be an ongoing issue, but it seems like he'll be able to play through it. With Kyle, hamstrings are tough. I mean, that's an injury you really have to be careful with, especially at age 36. So I don't know. I mean, every hamstring, there's degrees of hamstring injuries, right? From what I was told early on, it wasn't a serious one. We've seen him on the bench, pretty mobile. Like, I know he had a limp in the first few days after the injury, but in Miami last game when he was on the bench, he looked good. I know he wasn't running, obviously, but he wasn't really walking with much of a limp. So that's a good sign. The team returns to practice Friday, so we'll know a little more about where Kyle stands, if he's participating in practice, what he's able to do. I think there's a chance he's ready for game 1. I think that's the hope, but I don't think it's as sure as Jimmy being available on Monday.
Yeah. Who was your MVP of the series against the Hawks?
Jimmy Butler, there's no doubt. I mean, I know he missed one game, but he was arguably the best player in the first round of the playoffs in the whole NBA. I mean, you look at all the advanced stats, what he did offensively and defensively. He was definitely the MVP of the series, maybe the MVP of the first round, just with what he did, I would say. And then after that, I mean, if you wanted like an unsung hero, I would say Max Strus.
That was going to be my. That was the one that I wanted to see. That if you had to give the most the award to the second most impressive player in this series for you, who was it?
I would say a tie between Max Strus and PJ Tucker. Those two were huge. PJ
At that age. God
was a beast. Defensively, I mean, he spent a lot of time on Trey, was really good as a help defender, did pretty good offensively, shot a high percentage from 3, made some runners. In game 4 in Atlanta, they ran offense through him, and he delivered in that area as well. I mean, Max Strus, we've talked about him a lot in the past 2 weeks, but the way he was able to hold up defensively against the Hawks when they were hunting him was really impressive. And then obviously he does what he does offensively. So I think those two guys, I would say, were 2A, 2B when it comes to the MVP for the Heat in that first round.
Don't forget, folks, that download the Liquor Split app. Tap that app. Liquor Split, iOS or Android. Get your favorite liquor, soft drink, chips, all kinds of stuff delivered. Go to the website, check it out. You can see the full list of everything that they'll deliver. Flat fee of $2.99. No hidden fees whatsoever, like other services out there. You're not going to get that from Liquor Split. So download the app right now at liquorsplit.com or at your iOS or Android store. Tap that app with Liquor Split. All right, so Duncan Robinson. It's like I'm watching a guy in quicksand, and it's just like diminishing, need almost, which is kind of crazy when we're talking about Duncan Robinson now and a $95 million contract. But there were several games here where he was a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, after that game one, he didn't really do much in that series.
He
And at
did
this point,
he did hit more threes than Trey Young in the series. So
just based on game one alone, pretty much. Yeah,
that's impressive. Okay,
yeah.
so
I mean, he did look. I'm not saying he won game one alone, but he was one of the bigger reasons they won game one.
yeah.
So give him that. But yes, again, we've had this conversation about Duncan Robertson
Well, dude,
supporting in
after
game
that
one.
game, it lifted me like, okay, this is
Yeah,
where
there's
he
a chance, right?
belongs. Here we go.
But I
A lot
think
of
this,
juice off the bench,
yeah,
and then no
I
juice.
think off the bench, this is kind of what he's going to be, right? He's going to be a situational guy where if he's hot, you leave him in. If he's not, you're playing, Max Strus more minutes. You're playing maybe Victor Oladipo in his place. I still think he's going to play most games, but I think the minutes will be different every
Or
game based on
fluctuate
how he's playing.
depending on
But yeah,
right.
fluctuate based on the matchup, based on how he's playing. Does he hit two of his first three threes? Is he being hesitant with the shot attempts? Spo does not like that, as we know. He wants him to be aggressive. He'll pull him if he's doing that. So I think it'll fluctuate based on every series, based on the games, based on how he's playing. I think you saw Atlanta after that first game. They really made it a point to not let him get off any, like he did in game one. That his looks were a lot more difficult after that first game. He didn't get as many open looks. So Atlanta made a point. So him out there again, whether he's making them or not, obviously you want him to make more, but he helps the offense. But if
Yeah.
he's not hitting threes consistently, this team is so deep that they can turn to Victor Oladipo. They can play Max
Right.
Strus an extra 10 minutes. They could play PJ Tucker a few more minutes. And maybe Duncan doesn't play, 15 minutes, in a game. Maybe he plays 5 minutes
Well,
because of a certain night he's not on. So I think it'll change from game to game.
that was my follow up there. The emergence of Oladipo, I think, as we move forward and defense becomes a bigger part of the game to get stops. Well, wait a minute. I can get stops with some of my young guys. And you know what? Now instead of Duncan, well, Oladipo is playing well now. He can help me defensively. He can help me as the facilitator. He can help me as a ball handler. If I'm Spo, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. I got to win. Oladipo's a better all around basketball player. Could it end up becoming that Oladipo ends up taking time away from Duncan?
Yeah, it goes back to the conversation of when Jimmy and Kai are healthy, what skills do you need around them?
Right.
Around Bam, Jimmy, and Kyle. And maybe it is Victor some series where you need an extra defender because you're playing Philly and they have Maxey, they have Harden, and they have Embiid. So you need more
Boston
defenders on the
next.
court. Boston with
Boston's
Harden,
next.
Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford. So yeah, maybe there is in some series you're gonna need the extra defender, but I think also you can make the argument of around those three guys when they're healthy, you don't need an extra ball handler. You don't need maybe an extra defender in some situations. You need a shooter.
Right.
And that's why Duncan Robinson has been playing over Victor up to this point until the injuries. So I'm not saying that. I don't know if that'll change. We'll see. I mean, Victor has definitely provided a very good argument to have consistent playing time. But I think the biggest we won't know what Spo's plan is until we see this team healthy again and what the rotation looks like in those games. I think Victor probably did earn some playing time, but I also think Duncan will still be in the rotation as well. How he makes it all work, I don't know because there's a lot of guys to play. But I just think Duncan's outside shooting. I know he didn't shoot the ball well in the final four games of the series. Is really important because your two best players, Bam and Jimmy. I know Jimmy has turned into a shooter now, but technically they're both non-shooters. So you need outside shooting in there to complement them.
Well, listen, after the Bosch years and then the journeyman years with Johnson, all those guys, nobody knows how to juggle lineups better than
Oh
Ernest
yeah,
Foster. So
we've
I
seen the
have,
last two games. Yeah, we've seen the
yeah,
last two
yeah,
games.
yeah. No, but the last two games is nothing compared to the blood clot years and everything else that went on. That guy's just absolutely amazing. So I never ever doubt Spo, and I never ever doubt you, my man. Follow him on Twitter at Anthony_Chang. Catch his work there at the Miami Herald and catch him twice a week here doing his thing with our liquor split Miami Heat reports. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Big O. Talk to you next week. Enjoy Vegas.
Yeah. How can you not, baby? Be good. There you go. All right, Anthony Chang. That is our liquor split Miami Heat report.
is the Big O Show.